Today we will go over quadratics in the vertex form.
Copy down the equation of a parabola can be expressed in either standard form or vertex form, okay, as shown below in the picture. So standard form is one way to write the equation for the parabola, and it's written as ax squared plus bx plus c. And standard form is important because the c represents the y-intercept. So that's the best representation for how you get the y-intercept, is using the standard form. The vertex form is the same exact equation but written in a different form, and the reason the vertex form is important is because the vertex form shows you in the equation what the vertex is. So that gives you the vertex. So the standard form is important because it gives you the y-intercept, and the vertex form is important because it gives you the vertex. You can get the vertex from the standard form, but you would have to do the equation like negative b over 2a, and then you'd have to plug in to get the y. Okay, this is what vertex form is. Okay, the vertex form of a parabola's equation is generally expressed as y equals a, and then parentheses x minus h squared plus k. So hk is a vertex, as you can see in the picture. So your vertex is going to be shown right here and here. Okay, your vertex also gives you the x value, which is the h, or your axis of symmetry. Okay, and then down below it tells you what each letter or variable stands for. So it says that if an a is positive, then the parabola opens upward like a regular U. If the a is negative, then the graph opens downward like an upside down U. So this a up here, okay, if it is positive, then it's going to open upward. And if it's negative, it's going to open downward. So that a just tells you opens up or down. A also means that if the graph of the parabola widens, it means if it's like thin or fat, okay, or compressed or stretched. Okay, so if it's less than 1, like a fraction, then it's wider or it's compressed. And if it's more than 1, then it becomes narrow or it's like stretched, like it's a skinny parabola. This is an example of what vertex form is, okay? So this represents the A. Your x is just the x. The negative 4 is actually the h. And then this is your plus k, okay? The A represents like if it's opened upward or downward. So because this is positive, it opens up, okay? The trickiest part of vertex form is that you have to put that this inside the parentheses. If it's a quadratic, it means that it's the opposite sign of what you think, okay? So if you have the in parentheses, it's the opposite sign. So right now it says, to me it says negative 4. But if it's the opposite sign, then it's going to be positive 4. Okay? That's my vertex. My vertex is positive 4. And then it's going to be negative 6 is going to be my y for my vertex, because this tells me the y. And it's not the opposite for k. So if it says negative 6, it's actually a negative 6. It's only the opposite inside the parentheses. Okay, so that gives you what your vertex is. The A tells you if it opens up or down. And this is actually stretched too because it's greater than 1. So we could put stretched. Inside the parentheses gives us the x of the vertex. And then the outside tells us the y of the vertex. Okay, and it's the opposite sign inside the parentheses. Okay, I forgot to put my squared sign. You do have a squared sign right here. Okay, that's just the form that it's in. So the squared sign doesn't really represent anything. It's just representing what the equation looks like. Okay, this is just an equation, and all you're doing is pointing out that this represents the vertex. So this is the opposite sign. So your vertex would be -5 and then 6. Okay, but you also have this negative up here. This negative up here just represents that the parabola is going to be flipped and it's going to be downward. So it's going to open downward because it's negative. That means that it has a max value. So your parabola will look like that. And the vertex would be at -5, 6. Okay, so you're not solving for anything. Okay, right now we're only looking at what the vertex is, and we're pulling out the vertex. So if I were to make up another equation like y equals 2x minus 3 squared minus 7, if I said, hey, what's the vertex? I would just look at that and say, okay, the vertex is going to be
positive 3, negative 7.
good, positive 3, negative 7. Okay, opens up. So it has a minimum. Good. You need to know how to convert from vertex form. So if I said, hey, here is what you'd have in vertex form. So if I gave you something like 2 and then x minus 3 squared plus 4, and I said, hey, can you convert that to standard form? That means that I would want you to write it out like ax squared plus bx plus c. So that means that you would have to take this equation, and to make it look like the top equation, you would have to use that FOIL method. And you would basically have to FOIL this part. So you would FOIL, and that means first, outer, inner, and last, and you're multiplying. You would pull out these two. After you FOILed, then you would multiply by the outside 2, because this 2 needed to be distributed, but you can't distribute that 2 until you FOIL that first. And then you would add the 4 as your very last step. Okay? So let's go back. I'm going to pull out the x minus 3 squared. Okay, so x minus 3 and x minus 3. Okay, so we're going to pull those out and we're going to FOIL them. So that means that we're going to do the first, so x times x is x squared. Then we do the outer. So we're going to multiply the outers together, which is minus 3x. Then we're going to do the inner numbers. Okay. We multiply those together. They're going to give us negative 3x again. And then we're going to do the last term. And negative 3 times negative 3 is going to give you a positive 9. Okay, that's what I have so far. Now I have to combine the middle, and when I combine the middle, I'm going to get x squared and then minus 6x plus 9. And that's what I get when I FOIL. Okay, what I can't forget about is what I already had up here. I had this 2, so you have to bring it down, and you have to multiply the 2 times all of this. And then after you're done doing that, you're going to have to add 4. So I'm going to move this up here because I'm running out of room. So I have the 2 times x squared minus 6x plus 9. So I'm going to distribute that 2. So I have 2x squared minus 12x. 2 times 9 is 18. Okay, so when I distribute that 2, because this 2 is on the outside, So I had to distribute it to what was in the parentheses. What was in the parentheses was FOILed. So after I distribute that, I had the 4 still left over. The 4 was at the very end. So that means I have to bring the 4 over here. And it said to add 4, so I'm going to add 4 to this. So if I was at 18 plus 4, that's going to be 22. So my final answer would be 2x squared minus 12x plus 22. Okay, so our original equation was 2 parentheses x minus 3 squared plus 4. And I converted that equation into standard form, and that equation is now 2x squared plus 12x, I'm sorry, minus 12x plus 22. So that means that if I put this in my graphing calculator, like in Vertex form, that I would get the same thing as if I were to put this in my graphing calculator as standard form. Okay, that's the same exact equation, it's just written in 2 different forms. The only reason that I would have it in 2 different forms is that because I can look at this equation, and this is in Vertex form, and without doing any math whatsoever, if you gave me this equation, I would be able to say, hey, the vertex is 3, 4. And if I looked at the same equation, but it was in standard form, like this one, so in standard, I can tell what the y-intercept is. So the y-intercept is just the last number. So your y-intercept would be 0, 22. And that's the only, like, standard's good for y-intercept, vertex is good just to figure out what the vertex is.
Thank you for watching. Pause, like, and subscribe.